3 shots, back to back, pop, pop, pop.
Boy, down, stay down, stay down.
Every single person around me just jumped under a table.
There's a Secret Service, sorry, they rushed toward the president.
Get out of the way!
On the 25th of April, a high-security event in Washington, D.C. turned into a major security scare. U.S. President Donald Trump became the target of a gun attack during the White House Correspondents Dinner, an evening that brings together politicians and journalists. What followed was chaos. Secret Service agents moved in seconds after, shielding the Vice President and the President, evacuating attendees and engaging the attacker. Seconds later, the suspect, 31-year-old Cole Thomas Allen, was arrested on the spot. According to authorities, he was armed with multiple weapons and had traveled with the intent to assassinate the president and target senior government officials. This attack was not an isolated incident.
Take a look at what happened.
From Trump's assassination attempt during his election campaign in Pennsylvania in 2024 to the White House Correspondents Dinner attack, the US president has been involved in various security-related incidents. The United States, one of the world's most powerful democracies, has repeatedly seen its presidents become targets of violence. From the assassination of Abraham Lincoln inside a theater in 1865 to John F. Kennedy being shot in broad daylight in 1963, and even Ronald Reagan, who survived an assassination attempt in 1981. The office of the US president has never been completely out of danger. Over the decades, a total of 4 sitting American presidents have been assassinated. In this episode of WION Wideangle, we trace the history of violence against American presidents. What drives these attacks? Why have there been security lapses time and again? And can the world's most protected leader ever truly be safe? US President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump had just arrived at the event, and they took their seats at the main table. It was a high-profile evening with top political leaders, journalists and guests present in the room. About half an hour into the event, the situation changed suddenly.
I'm at the Washington Hilton. I've been taken out of the main ballroom after the sound of the shots fired. The Secret Service is now in charge of this building, this hotel. I just spoke to Mayor Muriel Bowser. She is on her way, and Chief Jeffrey Carroll is on his way. He will be in charge as soon as he gets here.
Within seconds, security officers started shouting, "Get down and stay down." President Trump was immediately taken to the ground as Secret Service agents rushed in and formed a human shield around him. He was then lifted and escorted out of the hall under heavy protection. The attacker had checked into the hotel a few days earlier like any other guest. According to court documents, on the 6th of April 2026, the accused, Cole Thomas Allen, made a reservation at the Washington Hilton Hotel for 3 nights, from the 24th till the 26th of April. By booking a room and checking in before, he bypassed the strict event day security screenings. Witnesses say he managed to get past initial security and opened fire as he moved forward. Security personnel responded immediately, drawing their weapons and moving in to stop him. Allen was reportedly armed with a rifle, a handgun, and several knives. Within moments, the attacker was overpowered, pushed to the ground, and taken into custody. Officials said that the accused managed to wound an agent who was saved by his bulletproof vest. The entire incident lasted only a few minutes, but the shooting raised fresh questions about Trump's security arrangement after he was previously targeted by 2 assassination attempts during the 2024 presidential campaign.
I'm not surprised at all. If he had not been inside the hotel already, and let's say he wouldn't have made it through the exterior ingress door, perhaps he would have decided to shoot people at the doorway. But because he was already inside, he had, at least one terrain feature ahead of anybody else from the public that would have had access.
Journalists who attended the dinner recounted the moment they first heard the gunshots. An attendee said that he was in the lower lobby when he heard shots being fired.
I was in the lower lobby there, and right before the escalator that goes down, and we heard 3 shots back to back, pop, 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 and I bolted for the door. I didn't even wait to see, what was going on behind me. I just heard it, and it sounded like it was behind me, so I ran out. Okay. And, of course, so many things are running through your head, but that's kind of just from my vantage point what happened. And then, of course, all the details were, you wait to see what exactly what happened.
When I saw the commotion and heard, oh my gosh, it was a gunshot, people started saying stuff. I just ducked under the table and I was like, I'm not going to risk this. I mean, I think the president was just sitting up at the main table, I think probably starting on an appetizer. And it was all really surreal.
Man, we were sitting there and all of a sudden we heard a few loud bangs, and it's hard to tell immediately, but then a bunch of people came sprinting into the room and we saw everybody getting rushed out, Donald Trump first, and that's when it became pretty obvious what was going on, and every single person around me just jumped under a table.
Reuters White House correspondent Bo Erickson said agents shielded Trump and escorted him away within seconds as armed forces secured the room.
What I first noticed was this absolute rush of waiters and people running down this center aisle towards the stage where President Trump was sitting. My Reuters colleagues and I, we were sitting actually very close to that stage, and so you would just hear the ruffle of silverware and glasses start shattering, and it almost seemed like a stampede was running towards the president's table. That is when I turned, and I was probably only about 30 yards away from where President Trump was sitting, and you saw these U.S. Secret Service agents getting on top of the president. He almost looked to be on his knees behind the table, and then they slowly started ushering him out as the federal agents with long tactical guns started to surround the president, ushering him off stage.
Cole Thomas Allen, the suspect arrested for the White House shooting, appeared in court on Monday. Allen, who described himself as a mechanical engineer, game developer and teacher, is from Los Angeles suburb of Torrance. He's also charged with using a firearm during a crime of violence and interstate transportation of a firearm with intent to commit a felony.
Today, the Department of Justice filed 3 federal charges in United States District Court against Cole Thomas Allen. The first count is attempted assassination of the President of the United States. This count is punishable by up to life in prison. The second count is interstate transportation of a firearm to commit a felony. This is punishable by up to 10 years in prison. And the third count is discharge of a firearm during a crime of violence, which is punishable by a mandatory minimum term of imprisonment of 10 years, a maximum of life, and the 10 years is consecutive to any other sentence imposed.
According to officials, Cole allegedly sent an email to his family and former employer shortly before the attack. An affidavit said that the accused wrote to his relatives. Administration officials are targets prioritized from highest ranking to lowest. He allegedly referred to himself as friendly federal assassin Allen. In the email, whose attachment was titled Apology and Explanation, he also made it clear that he was prepared to go further if he felt it necessary, writing that most attendees were, in his view, complicit simply by choosing to be present there.
Now, the manifesto also makes clear about his expected rules of engagement. You know, you can look at it and read it, and it may seem kind of la, but at the end, make no mistake, he says, I am targeting the administration officials. They are my targets, and I'm prioritizing from the top down, the highest ranking from the lowest. And I will not hesitate to get involved in any kind of encounter with anyone who blocks me from the president.
In a press conference held shortly after being safely evacuated, President Donald Trump referred to his attacker as a would-be assassin and described him as a lone wolf.
No, I mean, he was a guy who looked pretty evil when he was down. You know, they had him down. He was fighting hard. He was, in my opinion, a sick person. Who would do that but a sick person? But I think you're going to find everything about him. No reason to talk about it now. But tomorrow at this time, long before this time, you're going to know a lot of things about him. They seem to think he was a lone wolf, and I feel that too.
But what is a lone wolf attack? A lone wolf attack is when one person carries out a violent act on their own, without the help or orders from any terrorist organization. These attackers usually plan everything by themselves and are often influenced by ideas that they see online. They also tend to use easily available weapons like knives or even vehicles. Lone wolf attacks have evolved as the new phase of terrorism and bring unique challenges for counter-terrorism studies. The attack on Donald Trump has once again brought attention to a serious reality, that even the most powerful office in the world is not completely safe. While this incident was stopped in time, the United States has a long history of attacks on its presidents. Let's take a look at some of the notable attacks on US presidents and what they reveal about security and risk.
Please welcome the next president.
The most serious attack on Donald Trump took place less than 4 months before the presidential elections, on the 13th of July 2024, during a campaign rally in Pennsylvania's Butler. A gunman opened fire from a nearby rooftop while Trump was speaking on stage.
Take a look at what happened.
A bullet grazed Trump's right ear, leaving him injured, while one person in the crowd was killed and several others were hurt in the shooting. The attacker, identified as 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks, was shot dead by Secret Service agents within moments of the attack. Federal investors later described the incident as an assassination attempt and said that the suspect appeared to have acted alone. The shooting was seen as a major security lapse, and it raised serious questions about how the gunman was able to get into position so close to the rally site. In the days that followed, investigations were launched into possible security failures, and some Secret Service personnel faced disciplinary action.
That based on what I know right now, neither the Secret Service counter-sniper teams nor members of the former president's security detail had any knowledge that there was a man on the roof of the AGR building with a firearm. It is my understanding those personnel were not aware the assailant had a firearm until they heard gunshots.
According to officials, the gunman searched online for details about the November 1963 shooting of American President John F. Kennedy days before the attack.
Analysis of a laptop that the investigation ties to the shooter reveals that on July 6th, he did a Google search for, quote, how far away was Oswald from Kennedy? And so that's a search that obviously is significant in terms of his state of mind. That is the same day that it appears that he registered for the Butler rally.
2 months later that year in September, Donald Trump said that he survived another assassination attempt, this time while golfing at the Trump International Golf Club in Florida's West Palm Beach. The accused was a 58-year-old Ryan Wesley Ruth, a roofer and Russia-Ukraine war activist who apparently did not want Trump to get elected. In February this year, Ruth was sentenced to life in federal prison. The recent attack on Donald Trump took place at the Washington Hilton, the very same location where another American president was shot at more than 4 decades ago. On the 30th of March 1981, the then US President Ronald Reagan was leaving an event at the hotel when gunshots suddenly rang out. As Reagan walked towards his car, a man in the crowd opened fire, shooting 6 times in just a few seconds. One of the bullets hit Reagan, piercing his lung and coming close to his heart. 3 others were also injured in the attack, including a Secret Service agent and a police officer. The attacker, John Hinckley Jr., was quickly overpowered and arrested at the scene. Hinckley, who was obsessed with actress Jodie Foster, after watching Taxi Driver, believed that his act would impress the Hollywood star. He tried to imitate the disturbed vigilante behavior of Travis Bickle, the protagonist of the 1976 film Taxi Driver, played by Robert De Niro and directed by Martin Scorsese. Ronald Reagan was seriously wounded by a revolver bullet. Despite being seriously injured, Reagan remained conscious for a short time and was rushed to the hospital, where he underwent emergency surgery. He survived the attack and later returned to duty, but the incident left a lasting impact on American security. More than 40 years later, the same hotel has once again become the site of a security scare. The White House Correspondents Dinner is held every year at the Washington Hilton. Opened in 1965, it has been hosting the annual gala since 1968. The building itself has special design features meant for presidential security. There is a separate entrance for the president and even a secure holding room behind the stage. These changes were made after Ronald Reagan was shot outside the hotel. When the president attends the dinner, the Secret Service takes full control of security with support from other law enforcement agencies. Security becomes stricter closer to the ballroom, where guests must show their passes and go through airport-style screening before entering the event. And yet, despite these layers of security, the recent attack has raised serious concerns about possible gaps and whether even the most secure venues can fully prevent such threats. On the 2nd of November 1963, the then US President John F. Kennedy and the First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy arrived in Texas as part of a political visit ahead of the next election. They were traveling in an open motorcar through the city, joined by Texas Governor John Connally and his wife Nellie Connally. As the motorcar passed through Dealey Plaza, gunshots suddenly rang out, shocking the crowd and those traveling with the president. Governor Connolly was hit in the attack, and President Kennedy, who was shot twice, was critically wounded. He was rushed to Parkland Memorial Hospital, where doctors tried to save him, but he died shortly after. Investigators later said the shots were fired from a nearby warehouse building, and within hours, the police arrested a suspect named Lee Harvey Oswald, who worked there. Oswald was a former US Marine who had once defected to the Soviet Union. Before returning to the United States, his background added to the mystery surrounding the case. However, just 2 days after his arrest, while being moved to another jail, Oswald was shot and killed by Jack Ruby, a nightclub owner from Dallas. Ruby was later tried and convicted for Oswald's murder, but he died of cancer in January 1967 while waiting for a retrial. Following Kennedy's assassination, the nation went into mourning. On the 24th of November 1963, hundreds of thousands of people walked past President Kennedy's coffin at the US Capitol to pay their respects. An estimated 1 million people lined up the streets of Washington, D.C. to watch the funeral procession. For many Americans, the assassination of John F. Kennedy remains one of the most painful and unforgettable moments in their country's history. The event was even showcased in the 2016 Oscar-nominated Jackie, starring Natalie Portman as Jacqueline Kennedy. Before these attacks, let's tell you about other presidential assassinations. At the turn of the 20th century, on the 6th of September 1901, the then US President William McKinley was attending a public event at the Pan American Exposition in Buffalo, New York. As he greeted people in a receiving line, a man stepped forward as if to shake his hand, but instead shot him at close range. The attacker, Leon Zolgosz, was an anarchist who had hidden a gun under a cloth. McKinley was shot twice in the abdomen and was rushed for medical treatment. His condition worsened due to infection, and he died 8 days later, on the 14th of September. Zolgosz expressed no remorse for his actions and died in the electric chair on the 29th of October the same year. Just 2 decades before McKinley, another US president was assassinated. On the 2nd of July 1881, President James A. Garfield was at a train station in Washington, D.C. when he was shot at close range. The attacker, Charles J. Gueto, was a disgruntled man who believed he deserved a government position. Garfield was hit by 2 bullets and was left seriously injured. After nearly 2.5 months, the president died on the 19th of September 1881 due to infections. The first assassination of any US president took place in the 19th century. On the 14th of April 1865, President Abraham Lincoln was attending a play at Ford's Theatre in Washington, D.C. During the performance, an actor named John Wilkes Booth entered the president's box and shot him at close range. Lincoln was taken to a nearby house where doctors tried to save him, but he died the next morning on the 15th of April. The attack came just days after the end of the American Civil War, making the loss even more shocking for the nation. The assassination scene has been documented in the 2012 Oscar-winning film Lincoln, directed by Steven Spielberg. From Abraham Lincoln to Donald Trump, the threat to American presidents has continued across generations. Security has evolved, protection has increased, but the risk has never fully disappeared. The recent attack is a reminder that even today, no system is completely foolproof. And as history shows, it only takes one moment, one breach to change everything.